All right, Steeler fans, it's week 5. It's behind enemy lines time where we talk to the opposition, someone that covers the team. And I have Michael Davis on. He covers the Cowboys for Fans First Sports Network. Michael, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's an honor to be able to do work with you through Fans First Sports Network. And even though we're enemies today, I'll try to keep it cordial.
I mean, honestly, when you think Cowboys Steelers, does it get any better than that when you think about the history of the NFL, the magnitude of some of these matchups, and how many times they've met in the Super Bowl? I don't think it gets much better, and it's in prime time. Are you excited as I am?
Oh, I'm excited, and I would go ahead and say like this might be the best NFC AFC rivalry in all the NFL's history.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that rivals it, and that's, I know, no pun intended. Probably not. Probably not. And this is a game that, even if you look at recent history when they've played, they've typically been very entertaining games. Typically come down to the end. I can think of games where Ben Roethlisberger got the best of the Cowboys, and I can remember games where it's been vice versa. I'll never forget rookie Ezekiel Elliott running all over the Steelers at Heinz Field on their way to a win. And that was gut-wrenching. So it's been a long time, and Ezekiel Elliott's somehow back on the Cowboys roster. But still, let's go through this. There's been 4 games. Dallas, I think a lot of people were kind of underwhelmed by them this year. What's your take on the Cowboys so far?
Well, unfortunately, the run defense has been non-existent. The run game has been non-existent, and they opened up with a really good win over Cleveland. Like Cleveland, historically good at home, especially last year, we're 8-1, and Dallas went in and beat them by 16 points. It was like 33-17. I was like, okay. I mean, this was a quality road win, and then
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
follow that up with the Saints, and you were just like, what happened? Like, they were out of that game early. The Baltimore Ravens game, I was like, this is a recipe for disaster. Why you don't go for Derrick Henry in the offseason is baffling to me. And so the fact that we were able to battle back down 28-6 at one point and only lose 28-25, I was really surprised. And then we had a gimme game against the Giants. But then with that gimme game being on Thursday night, we lost a lot of guys. Like, we might be without Micah. We might be without D-Law. We might be without Deron Bland. We will definitely be without Brandon Cooks. And now I'm looking at this game, and I'm like, what's Pittsburgh Steelers are going to show up. I don't know who's suiting up for the Cowboys.
Well, let's start talking about that Cowboys defense. You brought up the injuries to Lawrence and Parsons, and those are the big name guys on the defensive side in general. I mean, they do have a good secondary. I don't want to poo-poo the secondary, but the run defense has been an issue. They're 27th in the league right now, surrendering 145.8. Their pass defense is a little bit better from a ranking standpoint, 20th overall, still giving up 209.5 yards per game. I don't know. I guess I thought that Mike McCarthy was going to build this team and Zimmer was going to have this defense really just, I don't know, flying all over the place. And you're just not seeing those results. I can't imagine what the game plan is going to look like without Parsons potentially. As of this being recorded, he's missed the first 2 days of practice, but I don't know if he's going to play. Mike Tomlin said on Tuesday he is preparing as if he'll show up as a freak of nature like he is and play. I don't necessarily believe that personally. But what's going on with the defense? Like, this is crazy.
Dude, and this has been a pride for the Cowboys the last few years. So they had Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator. He was able to get the ball away from the offensive position. And we were like, wow, this is different, because before Dan Quinn, like, the Cowboys had historically bad defenses. And then we bring in Mike Zimmer, who is a great defensive mind, but he has so many schemes. And with the team basically sitting out the entire preseason, and I really don't like the term September football, because it's like, oh, it's September football. But it's like, hey, you had the preseason, you had training camp for a reason. These games actually count. And with baseball, you can lose X amount of games and be fine. Basketball, hockey, football, you have 17 games. Like, this September football, the games you're losing right now could impact whether you make the playoffs or not in January. So I don't love the excuse. And the fact that we did have a new defensive coordinator and Mike Zimmer has all these different schemes, and they only threw out 3 packages that opening week against the Browns. I'm like, you're seeing the aftermath of a team who just wasn't prepared to play football. And I feel like that's the biggest issue, along with Leighton Vander Esch retiring. Like
Yeah.
when he went down with his neck injury last year, if people remember, that's where the run defense slipped up. Like they were giving up a bunch of yards. Jonathan Hankins also went down with the injury, and that hurt the run defense last year. Vander Esch retired, Hankins in Seattle, and Dallas just, I don't think they replaced them.
So without Lawrence and Parsons, a lot of people are assuming that the plan is going to be like they're going to go remember the Titans on the Steelers. Blitz every play. Is that it? Is that what they're going to have to try and do the Steelers don't have this juggernaut offense. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost, but they're moving the ball and Justin Fields is still dynamic and they have playmakers with George Pickens, but what's the plan going to be for Dallas?
I wish I could tell you. I mean, and dude, I'm really worried about this because you just brought up Justin Fields, and look what Dallas couldn't stop with Lamar Jackson. Like,
True.
Dallas isn't great with running quarterbacks. So if Pittsburgh's able to be like, hey, let's just run the option with Justin Fields, see if Najee can get some yards inside, Justin Fields on the outside. You don't have an athlete like Micah Parsons potentially on the outside to, but even if he is, that's how you stall Micah Parsons, is making him hesitate versus having a direct attack at the snap of the ball. It's tough. Like I really wish I was a lot more optimistic coming on here for the first time.
Well, for me, I think about this and I think about what the Cowboys are facing injury wise for the Pittsburgh Steelers game. And I'm thinking this is going to fall on the offense. Dak's going to have to put up points. And the Steelers defense, which is highly regarded, some would say heralded amongst the NFL's best, is coming off of a not so great performance against the Indianapolis Colts, led by Joe Flacco of all people. But still, they lose that game. They surrender 27 points. It's the most they've given up all year. And you're looking at Dak Prescott and this offense, and I'm thinking from a Steeler fan perspective, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be in a shootout. You agree or disagree?
I don't know. I feel like it's going to be defensive. Like this has to be a low scoring game. It's going to be tough. I don't see a shootout by any means.
Okay.
Especially without, because Pittsburgh, don't they have like the fourth best defense when it comes to yards allowed in the season?
I mean, statistically, Pittsburgh's defense is still really good. And I'm not saying, when I say shootout, let me be more specific. A Steelers shootout is like mid-20s. So for a lot of
maybe.
For a lot of teams, a shootout is like close to 40 points. Shoot, the Steelers haven't sniffed that since Ben Roethlisberger in his prime. So when I say a shootout for the Steelers offense and defense, like, man, if they can get mid-20s, that's crazy shootout for Pittsburgh. So to give you some perspective there.
Yeah, just like shootout. I mean, maybe that's a shootout back in the 1980s, but here in the 2020s.
For the 2024 Steelers, a 24-point output. Steeler fans like, yeah, look at this. Look at us in the modern offense.
Look at us. Oh, man. And see, I wouldn't have expected it from Justin Fields. Like, I was not high on him in Chicago, and he's come back to Pittsburgh. And I know it's your show, but now I'm like, do you even pull Justin Fields at one point and put Russell Wilson in there? Because I think you just ride the hot hand.
You have to. And Mike Tomlin was actually asked about that on Tuesday at his press conference. Could there come a time where you just say, I'm not going to turn and go to someone else just because? And he said, yes, I don't think we're there yet, but it could. And he did that last year in 2023. Kenny Pickett was healthy down the stretch, but Mason Rudolph was winning games, and he stuck with Mason Rudolph. And he used the hot hand term, saying, I'm going to stay with the hot hand. So Justin Fields, that was the first time Mike Tomlin kind of cracked the door open and said, like, look, kid, this could be your job. You just got to go out, keep winning games, keep playing good football, protect the football. And that's been an issue that's popped up. It's been a bugaboo at times. But let's talk about Dak Prescott. Let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. Boy, did the Cowboys open up their checkbook this offseason and paid them handsomely, rightfully so. But what else do they have? Give me some players to watch that are not named Lamb and Prescott and I guess Elliott, if you want to throw him in the bunch, that Steeler fans be like, okay, we got to keep an eye on this guy because even though he's not a big name, he can torch us.
Well, I was going to bring up Elliott because, of course, like of that 2016 game.
Yeah,
Um, I've made a prediction that he's going to get 11 rushing touchdowns this year. He's got one of them. He just needs 10 more, and
that's
he
all.
took he took a few weeks off. But there's a couple wide receivers I really want to look out for, and obviously, Brain Cooks is going to be out. He had surgery on a knee because he got an infection in his knee, so that's a scary
Yeah.
injury. So I'm sure you're going to game plan against CD Lamb, which is going to open up plays for Jalen Tolbert, which Jalen Tolbert, he's made some splash plays, but he hasn't had that one game. Like he hasn't had a signature game where he stood out. In the Baltimore Ravens game, he was part of the attempted comeback. He had 3 catches, 42 yards, a touchdown. Against the Saints, actually, he had 6 catches for 82 yards. So he started to get part of this offense. With Cooks out, he needs to start playing. But rookie Ryan Florney from Southeast Missouri, he was a 6th-round pick this year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys activate him off the practice squad and he's able to get 4 catches, 30 some yards, like allowing the team to move the sticks because he's hungry. And anytime you get a guy off the practice squad and wanting to make plays, it's always the next man up mentality.
How does CD Lamb do against physical cornerbacks? And this might be tough because you don't always see that on the TV broadcast. Sometimes you have to watch all 22. I don't know. You seem like a busy guy like me. I don't have time to watch that stuff. There's not enough hours in the day. But still, I'm expecting Joey Porter Jr. to follow CD Lamb wherever he goes on the field. If he goes and takes a leak, he's going with him to the Porta John. So how does he handle though? Because Joey Porter will get his hands on you. He's a physical cornerback. How does CD Lamb handle those type of guys?
Do you think Joey Porter would move to the slot if CD goes into the slot?
That's the only thing that he's probably not going to do. And that's smart. If they are smart and they're trying to free him up away from Joey Porter, but it also depends on the system that they're in, if they're running zone scheme or if they're running man. So do they motion CD Lamb a lot? Do they move him all over the formations?
They've started to use a little bit more motion, especially after that Saints game and seeing what Kubiak did against that Dallas defense. They're like, oh, we need more motion. So the last couple games I've seen them put Lamb in motion, but they love lining him up in the slot
Yeah.
for those mismatch opportunities. Because if you leave him on the outside, you're always going to be, putting yourself out there against the team's best corner because they
Right.
will follow Lamb. So being able to put him in the slot and allow him to go. Also, Lamb actually has the longest carry for a Dallas Cowboy this year with 13 yards on a carry.
Really?
Yeah.
And was it a reverse?
I want to say he was actually lined up in the backfield for that.
Oh, nice.
So they're starting to move CD Lamb
Okay.
around different places, but I know you saw it probably on media and everything about CD Lamb getting frustrated in that Baltimore game. He's got to keep a level head. Like he's
Yeah.
got to channel that frustration in a healthy way versus pouting on the sidelines. Because that was the first time I really saw Lamb since his rookie season actually start pouting on the sidelines. It really impacted the entire dynamic on the sidelines. And as a leader, as a guy who just got paid, you can't do that, Jeff.
Now, I have one more question for you before I ask about what you think about how the game's going to play out. So, TJ Watt is a half sack away from 100 career sacks. And he didn't get one last week in Indianapolis. And everyone's like, okay, this is fitting. Let's get one at home in front of the home crowd. Let's sack Dak Prescott and get that, even if it's a half, it's all he needs. And he would be one of the fastest pass rushers to get to 100 sacks in a certain number of games. I think his brother and Reggie White are up there as well. How's the pass protection looking like for Dak Prescott so far?
So the pass protection's actually done really well. I saw a stat earlier today where it was like, I forget the word they used, but it was basically like the idea of being pushed back in the pocket for pass protection. Tyler Smith and Zach Martin were the 2 guys who had like the lowest 5% of, it was like less than 1%. It was absolutely wild. Like that's a
Okay.
good stat
Yeah.
to protect Dak Prescott, especially at the guard position. But you look at the tackles. Tyler Guyton, a rookie, he's learning. He's really impressed me, especially that preseason game against the Raiders. I mean, from the very first snap, he pushed Max Crosby back 6,
So
7
is he on
yards.
the right side? Guyton's on the right side?
Guyton's on the left.
Okay.
I know I'm, mixed up on the video feed right here.
No, it's okay.
And Terrence Steele is on the right. Terrence Steele is a liability at the right
That's
side.
who's going. That's who TJ Watt's going against then.
So that's what worries me is Guyton against premium pass rushers. He may grab and he may get a couple holding calls, but Terrence Steele will get bulldozed and not allow Dak Prescott time. So until the Dak and CD extensions, Terrence Steele was actually recipient of the 10th highest Cowboys contract in history, which is absolutely wild. And then I'm like, great, he isn't earning it right now. So I'm really worried playing against TJ Watt. Now I'm actually kind of glad Micah's not there because maybe TJ doesn't have that extra juice to be like, I want to prove I'm the best pass rusher on the field. But honestly, it's a Watt. I don't worry about his mindset at all.
His mindset's going to be breaking that record or getting that 100 sack. That's been a monkey on his back for 2 games now. Trust me. He's going to want to get home because he's probably pissed off about last week as well. He has not spoken to the media since, really. I think he's really angry about last week's game. And so he's going to want to prove something in prime time. We'll put it that way. But let me ask you one last question, Michael, before I let you go. And that is, how do you see this game playing out? You don't have to give any score predictions or anything, but just your gut feeling and instinct about this game. What are you thinking?
Well, may I give a score prediction?
If you want, I always tell people they don't have to, because some people are like, I don't know if I'm doing scores. You can give a score prediction.
So I think it's going to be from a 2020 football standpoint, a low scoring game. Maybe for Pittsburgh fans, it's like, wow, we saw a lot of offense.
Yeah.
So what I expect to happen is Dallas is going to get into the opponent's, territory, but they're going to get stifled. Playing against TJ Watt, playing against Pittsburgh, who has like the 4th best defense when it comes to yards allowed per game. Like, it's going to be tough to actually move the ball and get in the end zone.
Yeah.
But Dallas has a great leg, Brandon Aubrey, perhaps, and I would go ahead and on record and say the best kicker in the NFL right now.
Chris Boswell's pretty good too. Just saying.
I would not touch Chris Boswell over Brandon Aubrey. Aubrey's probably the best UFL player to come out in the last few years.
That's not saying much. It's a UFL.
Hey, they produce kickers, and it's really helped Dallas in a lot of ways. So I feel like Aubrey, if you have him in fantasy football, you're going to be really happy because he's going to produce you a lot of points. But I'm super worried about Justin Fields and this option. If the Steelers utilize their strengths versus Dallas's weaknesses, I could see a 22-18 Steelers victory for this weekend, unfortunately.
Which is crazy because the over-under is set at 44 right now, and you just had a score total of 40. So you actually had just under. So that's pretty interesting.
Wait, 22-18 would be 44.
22-18.
No, I'm bad at math. It is 40. I am bad at math. I was like, whoa, hold up. Yep, you're right.
That's okay. He's a Cowboys fan. All right. So, Michael, I want to let you plug social media, what you're doing for Fans First Sports Network, which we do appreciate. Go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, I'm running the Star Stud Cowboys network through Fans First Sports Network, which they've also allowed me to put the video feed on Boom Broadcasting. Really appreciate that. That's on YouTube if you guys want to find that. I'm on X or Twitter, whatever you like to call it nowadays. I believe it's B_Michael Davis. I'm on Instagram with a lot of accounts. I'm on Facebook with a lot of accounts, a lot of pages. Go find me. If I ask you to buy a t-shirt at this random link, that's not me. So just be careful about those hack attempts. I'm hoping I get famous like that one day and people start creating fake accounts trying to, trick people, but appreciate what you do. I also write for Fans First, obviously, with the hurricane and everything that's happened here in Western North Carolina. It's been hard to produce content, but I'm glad I was able to hop on here with the podcast studio at my other workplace and, get to be on the show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Steel Curtain Network, Behind Enemy Lines for sure. Michael, thank you very much. Enjoy the game. We will be in touch, man. Take it easy.
All right. You as well.